The point of this is to provide the best facts-driven show that we possibly can.
Ideally, you have a glue guy who is good.
Hashtag glue guy, hashtag locker room guy. You can't go sign Bobby Holik to $1 trillion. You can't do these things.
Very satisfying.
The absolute best NYR show in town.
This is the Liberty Blue Rangers Podcast. With Andrew Chelney and Nick Zararis.
Rangers fans, welcome to the best Rangers podcast in town. I am Andrew Chelney alongside Nick Zararis, and we are Liberty Blue. We scream about the Rangers so that you can save your voice. That's how deeply we care about you, and we appreciate that you've joined us for the ride. This is episode 9. We'll put the full video up on our YouTube, Liberty Blue Podcast, and the audio version will be available as an audio podcast as well. Search Liberty Blue on your favorite platform, and it should be there as well. At Liberty Blue Pod on Twitter and Instagram, at Chelney Andrew, Chelney Andrew, and Nick Zararis at NickZararis are our personal handles to follow on Twitter as well. We think, fixed the audio issues that Restream plagued episode 8 with, and we should be good to go moving forward. Fingers crossed. Nick, we are pre-recording this on Sunday because you'll be in Montreal on Monday. Have you been up there before, and what are you going to do up there on Monday?
Yeah, I've been to Montreal twice over the course of my life. Family vacation. My mom, I don't ask questions when my mom books a family vacation. It's a free vacation. At this point in my life, I will take a free vacation if I'm being given one.
Yeah, absolutely. I have never been there. I would like to go someday. I want to go. I've never been out of the country, really, at all. I've never been on a plane either, which people find surprising when I say that, especially at work. When I hear like all these, hosts and people like, oh yeah, I was in Miami and Las Vegas like for work and doing these things. I'm like, well, can't relate, my guy. I've never had to go through TSA, never had to go, go fly anywhere. I've never been on a plane before, but I would like to go sooner rather than later if at all possible.
Definitely gotta soak in the experiences. I'm very much skeptical of marketing campaigns, but the one Expedia did for the Super Bowl with Ewan McGregor, the one where you're not going to spend the rest of your life thinking about, I could have had a better beer. You got to go places, man. You got to see things. You got to interact with people. That's what living is. Living is interacting with other people and experiencing things. Like it's fun. It's good to be responsible. It's good to be lined up with what you want to do with your professional life. But you got to soak it in, man. It's a great big world out there, and there's a lot of interesting things and people to soak in. So you got to do something. Even if we're just talking about like going to Long Island, we got to get you. We'll start small. Start in the Hamptons, and then we can move along.
I mean, listen, it's not as if I'm afraid to go. Like, if you give me a plane ticket and say, here you go sit, go to wherever, I'll go. Like, I'll be the first one on the line. Like, it's not like I don't want to go or I'm afraid to go. These things are not cheap. And I just never had the opportunity, to just be like, hey, I'm going to go to this place for a week. See you later. These things cost a lot of money. And, I can't in good faith do that right now. But one day I will be in Montreal, and for like the 900 episode 900 of the show, we'll do a live one out in Montreal. How's that?
Sounds like a plan. We could do it at the what's that called? I forget what it's called. The bar right across the street from the Bell Center. But yeah, and I need to make a small addendum to the intro. Andrew usually does. I will not be screaming about the Rangers today because, as you can hear in my voice is very hoarse. I had myself a very busy weekend. I went to karaoke last night. Very much spent my entire night screaming along, singing to all the songs my friends and I were singing. We had a lot of fun, but my voice a little hoarse, so no screaming for me today.
Well, once we start getting through the rundown that we've prepared today, maybe we'll get a little louder up in here. What do you think? I think maybe it is August, so screaming about certain things won't really get us far because it's the middle of August, nothing's happening. But I do feel like once we get to some of these topics, and maybe louder, Nick would reappear.
Possible. It's not. The odds are not zero. Let's just leave it at that. So to start, like we've been doing during this part of the season for you're going to do podcasts, you got to talk about the transactions. Since the last time we recorded, Jonathan Huberdeau agreed to an extension in the middle of the night on Thursday, which is very weird. That got reported at like 11:30 at night. The Met game ended. I was sitting around waiting for somebody to text me back to make sure my plans were on for Friday, and I saw the Elliot Friedman tweet: the Flames and Huberdeau agreed a long-term extension. And one, good on the Flames. There was an assumption they were going to do this because they feel pretty good about their group. They've re-signed all of their key restricted free agents. They brought back Mangiapane. They agreed to terms with Chillington over the last week. So the Flames have the band together, and they think they're going to be pretty good. And Huberdeau is 29. He's a little on the older side to be giving an 8-year extension to, but at the same time, you got to do it. You just traded your franchise player, one of your franchise players away because he didn't want to stay, and you lost another one in free agency. So when you have the opportunity to lock someone like a Huberdeau up, you're going to eat the back end of that deal. Because even if he's only good the first 4 years, that's still 4 seasons. You have a chance to have a top, 20 player in the league in your lineup. That's what you got to do if you think you're going to win a Stanley Cup at some point.
What's funny to me is that Huberdeau is now going to be making more than Matt Tkachuk,
Yes.
which is surprising to me. Like, I think Matthew Tkachuk is a better player than Jonathan Huberdeau. Now, again, Jonathan Huberdeau is a very good player. I'm not here to be like, oh, Huberdeau stinks. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not just gonna go all headliney on people that are watching / listening to this. But like, I think Matthew Tkachuk is a way more complete player. I think he's much better on defense than Jonathan Huberdeau. And Matthew Tkachuk is somebody that you don't find a lot of those in the NHL at one point. Matthew Tkachuk is one of those difference maker players that can get something done when your team needs it. And Jonathan Huberdeau is that player to a certain extent, but I value Tkachuk more than I do Huberdeau. So for Huberdeau to get more money, I mean, listen, like you have to give him basically whatever he wants. Like you traded Matthew Tkachuk for him, you have to give Huberdeau a blank check, the key to the city, your firstborn child, whatever he wants. You basically just have to give him. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if you don't, well, then you have to move him again at the deadline or whatever, or what have you. And that's a whole another mess, and you probably won't get as much as you can for him then. Like it's a snowball. So yeah, for Calgary, like you have to do this. There's no other option, and you have to give him whatever he wants. At the same time, though, $10.5 million. He's, I think, 29 years old. 8-year deal. He's going to be 37 when this contract expires. Hopefully for Calgary and their fans, the salary cap is going to be a lot higher 8 years from now than it is right now. But that's what Rangers fans said when the Rangers first signed Jacob Trouba. And then the pandemic happened, and we have the flat cap now. So hopefully it doesn't happen again, but that is a lot of money for Jonathan Huberdeau.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of money, and it's good. The one thing I will say before we kind of wrap up this point, it is good for the league when teams like Calgary, like Columbus, when these teams that are in smaller markets that aren't as much of financial powerhouses as say the Leafs, the Rangers, to Montreal, who are just always going to be willing to throw money at guys and not really have to worry about it because they're always going to be fine attendance wise. The Flames play in an old building. The Saddle Dome is old. The Flames want a new building to play in. So this is one step in that process of going forward that you need to have your marquee players. You need to have something to galvanize your team around because I thought the Flames were going to win the Stanley Cup last year. I picked them to win the Cup. I thought they were the best, most consistent team during the course of the regular season. You knew what you were going to get from them every single night. And if that were just to, disappear over a single summer because Gaudreau wanted to go play somewhere else and Matthew Tkachuk wanted to play for a team in the United States, that'd be a really tough sell for a team that, they draft okay. They're okay at developing their own talent, but it's hard for those types of teams to get marquee players. So, yes, you did have to give Huberdeau probably a little bit more than he's worth. It probably, by year 4 or 5 of that deal, you probably would regret it. But yeah, you were close last year, and you're not that far away right now. I mean, Carolina. The Avalanche lost a bunch of guys. The Oilers really scare you? Vegas is a two-line team now. The
Yep.
West is going to be winnable next year if you're Calgary. So, like Andrew said, you can't not do this. You have to. And from what I've heard and what I've seen, it looks like they're going to get something done with Uyghur too, and have a really solid group of Uyghur, Huberdeau, Mangiapane, Lindholm, Chillington, Noah Hannafin. They've got some really good pieces. They've got Jacob Markstrom in goal. I was on the Locked On Flames podcast during the week last week, and I was talking about this with Jess before he signed the extension. I think the Flames are pretty well set up to be a cup contender for at least the next 2-3 years, and that's really all you can ask. Get to the playoffs. You got an elite goalie. You got a few high end guys. Anything can happen. The Rangers just did it. The Rangers didn't play great in the playoffs, but their high end players were better than the other teams they were playing as high end players until they played Tampa, and that's really all you need. This Calgary team is going to be pretty good.
The biggest question for Calgary is what the hell happened to Jacob Markstrom against Edmonton. I don't know why he all of a sudden forgot how to play the sport of hockey, but he was so good up until that point, and then he faced Edmonton for whatever reason. Like his splits against Edmonton are like just worlds worse than any other team in the league, and that's a problem, especially when one, you face them in the playoffs, and two, that's the Battle of Alberta. Calgary and Edmonton, like that's the huge matchup. They see each other multiple times a year. It's a very good possibility that they see each other in the playoffs. Like Jacob Markstrom cannot be bad against Edmonton, especially when you had goalies on the other side with Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen, who were really bad. They were bad, but Jacob Markstrom was so much worse, and that's a massive red flag. If I'm a Calgary fan, is like, why was he so good against everybody else, but then he got to Edmonton and looked like a peewee goaltender? Why did that happen? What's going on there? Is this going to happen again if they meet in the playoffs next season? Can we prevent this? Why is it happening? There's a lot of whys right now, and for Jacob Markstrom, he has to prove that that was a one-off, a fluke. Because if it happens again, I don't know how you keep him if you're Calgary.
Okay, so this is actually something I've spent some time digging into. I was very high on the Flames last year, and as part of my off-season prep for the upcoming season, I usually do a dive. I'll watch a few playoff games. I'll go through the various hockey Patreons I'm subscribed to, and really try and dig into and get a better understanding. So, to answer the first part of that question, why was he so much worse against Edmonton versus every other team? The style Edmonton plays, and this was the problem for Calgary and why they lost the Battle of Alberta. They tried to play in a track meet with Edmonton, and that's not Calgary's game. Calgary was one of the most efficient dump and chase teams of the modern stat tracking era. But of the last 5-6 years that Corey Schneider's been doing the transition stat logging, the Flames dump the puck in, go get it, engage the cycle, high to low, rebounds, deflections, like a machine, a ruthless machine. Get the puck to the point, get it down low, and try and make offense happen. Against Edmonton, they played more of an up-tempo, gain the zone with speed, look for a high-danger play to make a pass to somebody else who's in a good position, and that's a harder way to play, as the Rangers could tell you, trying to make the high-leverage play all the time, typically low rate of success, and against Edmonton, who's well-versed in that type of game, you're playing into their hands when you play a team in a track meet. It's like in basketball when you have a team that's really slow pace-wise, playing a really fast team pace-wise. This is a thing that people look for specifically when they're talking about March Madness upsets, because college basketball is played so differently based on the conference that teams are in. There are teams who only get X number of possessions per game, and even if you're really good with those possessions, if the other team is averaging, 20 more, 15 more possessions over the course of a season during a game, that's typically a situation ripe for upset, because that team that's used to playing at a slow pace isn't going to be able to just ramp it up and change the way they play for one particular opponent. And that's where you can find an upset. And that's what happened to Calgary. everybody I talked to going into that series figured Calgary would beat Edmonton and relatively easily because, like you said, Mike Smith doesn't scare you. Mike Smith was not great in that first round series against the Kings. He wasn't great in the regular season. And then the second part of that about Markstrom, he started, I think, 64, 65 games last year. He just had too big of a workload. We saw it with Jack Campbell in Toronto. You need to take care of your goalie, man. Everybody, even when you have a super, super good one, like the Rangers with Igor, like the Lightning with Vesey, you need to give these guys breaks. They don't want to take them. Most of these guys who are built the way those guys are, they are going to want to get every single start they possibly can, but you have to be able to sit them aside. And you talked about this last week when we were talking about Tyler Seguin. Eventually, you start hurting your team when you're trying to play through something. Even if it's not serious, you play through a nagging injury for too long, you just wear out. Playing goalie is a physically taxing thing. And after a 82 game season to start 65, and then you got to play every other day for 2.5 weeks. I mean, the miles add up. That would be my two answers to your question.
Yeah, the Calgary needs to figure it out, and they need to figure it out really quickly. Because if they don't, and we've kind of broke it down a little bit, but if Calgary realizes too late, if they realize like 60 games in the season that Jacob Markstrom has played 55 of them because there's no backup goalie to really support him well, then we got another problem on our hands. If you're Calgary, because you're just going to see a repeat of that come the playoffs again. And then the questions start, oh, is it Markstrom's fault? Is it like all these things? Where in reality, if you just do X, Y, and Z, maybe Jacob Markstrom doesn't look like a
Yeah.
Pee-wee goaltender come playoff time. Like there's things that we can that teams can do to it's not load management per se, because a goalie is such a different position than anything else that we see in other sports. Like if you're a basketball player, there's no goalie in basketball. Everybody, it's five positions, and load management in that sport is way different than in hockey. Like a goalie, especially in hockey, is such a taxing position every single night. Like playing 60 minutes, you're going back and forth, you're dropping on your knees hundreds of times a game. You're doing all these acrobatic things, and to do it night in night out for what, like 8 months, of course you're gonna get tired. Of course you're gonna break down if you don't get the proper rest to just give your body a couple of days off. It's not load management. It, like the idea that, oh well, goalies of yesteryear played 80 games and they were totally fine. Okay, well, did they do the same things that Markstrom and Shesterkin and all these goalies are doing today with all these acrobatic movements and side to sides and the all the splits? And no, like they weren't. Let's be objective here. They were not. So you cannot compare. Oh well, Ken Dryden played all these games. Why can't Markstrom or Shesterkin? Because it's not the same position as it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's clearly not. Goalies are so much better today than they were back then with how they move, how they play the game, all of their little micro movements and adjustments. Like you didn't see that back then, and that's okay. That's the evolution of the position of a goaltender in hockey. So you have to adjust with how goalies are adjusting. And if that means sitting them for an extra day or two while they recoup, then so be it. I don't see a problem with that. But teams have to do that, or else you're going to run your goaltender into the ground.
Or you could be David Quinn and split your Vezina goalie with average goalie just because you're not sure if Igor's the guy.
Yeah, well, good luck, San Jose. Good luck.
Okay, let's get to the meat and potatoes of today's episode. This is building off of what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the salary cap, where you're allocating your money, where you should be looking to try and save money, what advantages there are in the market that aren't being taken advantage of at the moment. Last week, we talked about where you get your players from, whether it be the draft, trades, or free agency. This week, we're talking more of a big picture. What kind of team are you? And this is one of those situations where the narrative is actually part of determining what type of team you are. And it's something that's kind of weird to think about, that what people think about a team actually impacts how they choose to operate. But that's just the reality for professional sports teams. Where you play, your television market, your fan base, all of that stuff matters. And in a sport like hockey, which is severely, severely reliant for their severely reliant in their revenue on tickets, on just people going to games, that becomes a real problem. And we see this all the time. We see it in other sports too. And the NHL is inching closer to that, where the players are feel a little more empowered and feel like they can ask for things that are just about them. It's not just about the team. This is the rest of your life. This is the next 7, 8 years of your life you're committing to. Do I really want to do that in this in this city? Because do I like living in this city? Am I happy here? Do I feel like I'm enriching my life by being here? Well, okay, yeah. Is the team doing enough to win? Sometimes. And all of these things go into that decision-making process for an athlete. And today we're going to talk about it in terms of just teams and where teams are in their respective cycles, I should say, and what teams can do to kind of adjust where they are. Because it's really hard to turn around a franchise when things don't go well for long periods of time. You start running into things where you turn into the same old Jets, the same old Mets, the same old etc. Fill in the blank team that consistently does dumb things. I mean, how long have we been making the fun of the Buffalo Sabres for having no real direction for the better part of a decade? Now, more than a decade now. I think the last time they made the playoffs was 2009, something like that. So it's very easy to fall off the tracks when you're a team. And then the narrative starts to consume you and it becomes a problem. I mean, even the Leafs, who are a successful team, the Leafs are a punching bag because they can't win a playoff series. I mean, that becomes part of your narrative. And then everything you do as a team has to do something with that narrative. The Leafs do everything every single offseason with the mindset of, is this going to help us finally win a series for the first time since George W. Bush was president? Can we get a fourth liner who wants to come here for $850,000? And is he going to be the fourth liner that finally puts us over the top? All of these things are fascinating to me as somebody who's very much into writing and narrative and storytelling. So to have these things actively be a part of sports is part of what makes sports so interesting to me.
Yeah, and by the way, like for those that are watching on video, I'm not looking into space here. Like I changed around my setup a little bit because we did episode 8 on my lap. I tuned in to Restream, which is what we're using to record these things now on my laptop, and my laptop has served me well for a very long time. It served me through college. I got it before I even went to college. But clearly it is begging for help at this point. I tried logging back into Restream for this episode as well, and we have realized that the problem with the audio wasn't with Restream. It was because my computer just could not handle the live recording that is the website. So that's why the audio was as choppy as it was, because my computer was like, if you don't turn off this website, I will swear to God. Like that's what it was saying to me. So I am now on Restream on my my desktop computer. That's why I'm kind of looking out into space, quote unquote, to see Nick, because Nick is over here. I'm gonna get an arm for my camera, which I kind of like have on my laptop. That's why I'm like here, but then Nick is over here, and that's I'm looking at everything except for where I would like to be. I will get that fixed sooner rather than later. But yeah, I like the idea that whoever you sign, this fourth liner that for league minimum is going to come in and be the difference between a first round exit and a Stanley Cup champion win is. I don't want to say it's ludicrous, because like these things can happen. Like, I guess we're gonna get to him in a second, but I guess Jimmy Vesey can come in and score 40 goals and bring the Rangers a title. I guess, but like, is it plausible? No. So the
Narratives are fun, Andrew.
yeah,
This is how we all cope
right.
with each
Well, of course they're fun, but realistically, the team has to be built for a title before you bring in a fourth liner, because the fourth liner is supposed to be the extra solid piece to the the overarching puzzle that is your roster. You bring in a 13th forward. That's not going to be the difference between winning and losing a cup, but they could be the extra little bit of help that you need in order to get over the hump. So yeah, you do need depth. Obviously, you need the best depth you can and all these things, but you can't go into a season and say, okay, well, if we just signed Jimmy Vesey to a 1-year deal, that's it. That that's it. Everybody put the house on the Rangers. They're winning it all. Like, that's a silly way to go about it.
Yeah, it is entirely silly. But when you're a team that is desperately trying to figure out every little advantage you can get, like the Leafs are, because they're pretty much capped out because they have a lot of money tied up in a handful of guys, you really do start to talk yourself into, they're going to fix Alex Galchenyuk and he's going to be their third line center and that's going to be the depth they need. And that was a real discussion that happened for a lot of the 2021 season. And that's what's fun about this because, and I talk about this all the time with my friends who aren't sports fans and they're like, you talk about sports the way a lot of people talk about like movies, like the universes that people operate in. And yeah, you think about it, it's the same idea. Like it sounds silly to say, but yeah, they are athletes. They're real people, but they're just characters in another story. So let's start with the main teams, the teams that are always going to be relevant because where they play, their commitment. Sometimes it's they just have the guys who stay in one place for X number of years, and these are the teams you would expect. These are the Leafs. These are the Rangers. Was the Blackhawks for a long time. They lost their sellout streak during the course of last season. But those big market teams, the powerhouses that no matter how bad they are talent-wise, they're always going to be on the national broadcast because they're going to bring in eyeballs because they have big television markets. I mean, the Rangers were objectively bad for the better parts of 3.5, 4 seasons and still getting national TV games against the Red Wings. I mean, I still think about the first, I still think
That's a
the Red
silly.
Wings
Yeah,
haven't
that's very
had
silly.
it's rivalry night. The
Yeah.
Rangers and Red Wings haven't been rivals since the 1960s when there were 6 teams in the league. I hate to be
Yeah.
that guy, NBC marketing executive, but
Well,
what are we doing here?
NBC did a lot of decisions. I'll say that they definitely made decisions. Some of their Wednesday night rivalries were just like like some of them were just the
Sabres
most.
Bruins, let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
watch
Or
Kyle
like
Poso against the Bruins.
there would be times where they pitted an Eastern Conference team against a random Western Conference team and called it Wednesday night rivalry. Like I forget. I mean, it's been a while, and I can't remember like, off the top of my head, but there were like multiple. I think there was at least one like Bruins Minnesota game, and it's just like,
Yes.
dude, like what are we doing? How is this rivalry night? This could not be farther from rivalry night. And we're getting off topic here, but like. Hopefully, and ESPN like saw what they were doing, and they're just like, you know what, we're gonna actually, if we're gonna do rivalry night, maybe let's get 2 actual rivals because whatever that was, it ain't it.
Good idea. Good point. If
Yeah,
you're going to have a rivalry night, you should have rivals
yeah,
playing on it.
right.
That's a good idea. Truth in
Follow for
advertising.
more breaking hot takes that clearly make the most sense in the world, but somehow NBC executives didn't agree to it. Anyways, that's beside the point.
Okay, so when you think about teams like the Rangers, like the Leafs, and you occasionally see teams go from the tier below into this group, I think it's safe to say Vegas operates like they are part of the Rangers, Leafs, Montreal group, where they're going to be in on any star player they can try and get. Money is not a problem. They sell out pretty much every single game. They've got a good fan base, even though they're a new team in a non-traditional market. So Vegas is in there. The Tampa Bay Lightning have graduated to that group now because they've been so good for so consistently long. I think they are currently the team with the longest active sellout streak of anybody in the NHL. And that just goes to show you how much you can change your own team's direction just by doing your job. And it sounds silly to say, and we like to make fun of Chuck Fletcher a lot because of the things he said during the course of this offseason. But yeah, you have to make difficult decisions and have convictions in them. Tampa Bay very easily could have blown it up after they lost to Columbus in 18, 19? Yeah, 18. Because
18.
Yeah. When they lost to Columbus, they very easily could have said, okay, this isn't working. We need to reconfigure our entire roster. We need to trade one of our stars, get somebody new in here, and reconfigure the shape of our team. But they didn't. They wrote it out. They added on to that team. They got they got depth. They traded for Barkley Goodrow and they traded for Blake Coleman. They put together one of the best third lines of the last 10 years in the NHL. They won 2 cups back to back, and now people look at them and we just assume no matter what they do, it's going to be right. 5-6 years ago, before they were really this good, yeah, they're a nice team. They're in the tier below. They draw okay. I mean, I remember in 2015 when the Rangers played them in the conference finals, they still did the insecure little market team thing where, well, you can't wear that team's jersey if you're sitting in this specific section.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't matter. Now they don't care because they don't act like a Mickey Mouse team anymore. They realize we're very good. It doesn't matter if other teams want to be in here. It doesn't matter. Our fans are going to be more than fine with that. And that it goes to show you just how much narratives matter. We all just kind of assumed that Brandon Hagel was going to be amazing for them because they gave up that much for him. They turned Nick Paul into like a top. Nick Paul looked like a top 6 forward in the playoffs. He was so good for Tampa Bay. And Nick Paul was like a replacement level third liner in Ottawa. And everybody just kind of assumes now whatever Tampa does is going to be right.
I think an interesting tidbit of this, like as somebody that works in NBA media, the conversation is always like, the Miami Heat have to do nothing to convince players to go there because, of course, of Pat Riley, yeah, but also because they're in Miami. Everybody wants to go in Miami. Everybody wants to go to Miami. Everybody wants to play Miami. There's no income tax there, and it's Miami. So yeah, of course, like everybody wants to go there. So getting free agents to go to these places is not difficult, and that by proxy, that's why Miami's the argument is like that's why Miami's always so good is because trying to like convincing players to go there is not very difficult. It's interesting to me that Tampa Bay and Florida did not kind of go that route, even though Sunrise and Tampa. I listen. I don't know
Not
my
Miami.
Florida. I don't know. I don't know if Miami. I don't know Florida geography. I'm not going to pretend that I do, but I would have to imagine that it's not that long of a drive to get from, or even like I'm sure there's a bunch of parties in Tampa and Sunrise as well, or in the surrounding area that you can attend and it's still Florida. Like Miami, I get it, whatever, all these things, but the idea that Florida teams in the NHL for some reason can't attract free agents just because of where they're located is strange to me. And one of the reasons why is probably because hockey is not a sport for hot weather.
Non-traditional market, yeah.
Basketball is, yeah. So like playing basketball in Miami makes a lot of sense. Playing hockey in Sunrise, Florida in June, if you get to the cup final, probably like doesn't make any sense for those that don't follow hockey. So Tampa Bay had to build up this reputation of, okay, we're a really good hockey team. Come here and you'll win with us. Whereas with Florida, nobody really wants to go there, and that's surprising considering the flip-flop that you see with Miami in the NBA.
So a couple things I can talk to you about this. I have a few Panther fan friends. Sunrise is like 45 minutes outside of Miami. One of the problems, it's the same problem that the Senators have. The arena's in the suburbs. It's not in the city. And you have to drive against traffic, with traffic of people commuting home. That is a problem too. Florida's playing in an old arena. 3, up until the last couple of years, just absolute dumpster fire of an organization in terms of the transactions. I mean, awful trades, spending way too much money on third and fourth line guys and second and third pair defensemen just to be gritty, be tough, to have a specific type of play. But I can't even begin to talk Dave Talon trading all those picks for Eric Branson, who has been traded 3 subsequent times since he was traded to Florida.
And got $16 million out of Columbus. So
all of that
who's laughing now, Dick? Who got the last laugh?
Eric Goodbranson, because he's that handsome and he has all of that money. He won.
Sure.
He won the game.
I guess so.
He won the game. The last thing I want to touch on in this part is something that I talk about this a lot with my political friends, is just the way sports are used and how they're marketed, because I find it very interesting that certain teams, depending where they play, how they choose to approach their market. Like, I always think it is insane that somebody approved Play Like a New Yorker as a marketing campaign and used imagery of people commuting on the subway, construction workers, manual laborers, like people, the blue collar workers who actually keep New York City going and alive, to market a team that the cheapest ticket most nights is $110 to get in and has a sushi bar and is clearly a luxury good. I
It's a
mean, the
very good
Rangers.
sushi bar, I have to
It
say.
is.
It's a
I've
very
had the
good sushi
sushi at
bar.
the Garden on more than one occasion. It is good. I do enjoy sushi, but the principle of it, you cannot say you got to play like a New Yorker and use imagery of somebody swinging a sledgehammer on a construction site when you go to a game and it's Celebrity A is here. Woo! Celebrity B is here. Woo! You're one of the stars. You're out in New York City on a Friday night. Look, there's Tom Hanks. Look, there's Julia Roberts. Woo! Absolute disjointed from reality. There are two worlds going on because you cannot say we're a blue collar organization when you're not a blue collar organization. Everybody likes the blue collar imagery. It evokes respect. It gets the swing voter in their happy place to say, "Ooh, that's like me. I'm one of those people." And then you go to a game and it's $17 for a Bud Light. You get what I'm saying? And the Leafs do this too. And I'm surprised there aren't teams in bigger cities that use this tact more of, it's not just that you're going to the game. It's you could be seen at the game and it's a status thing as opposed to just going to a hockey game, which I've always found weird as a marketing strategy for a hockey team.
Yeah. Well, the idea is like all of these people and the hockey team are gritty, right? They get to the
Oh
dirty
yeah, Tom
areas.
Hanks has got
Yeah.
grit.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks
Listen.
has grit.
Yeah. Well, hey man, being a movie star is not easy, as I guess Tom Hanks will tell you. But the idea is that hey, like these construction workers and all these subway commuters and all that, they're hashtag gritty, just like Ryan Reeves is gritty on the ice, or like whatever kind of parallel
Yes.
that you want to make. Like, hey, if you want to be a ranger, you have to get to the dirty areas, and the construction workers of New York City also get to the dirty areas. Like, I guess if you really wanted to pull, grasp at any straws and pull any kind of parallel, I guess that's it. Like, us and Ryan Reeves are not so different after all. Like, I guess that's what they're going for. But yeah, I totally agree. It's very silly.
Oh, I have more in common with Ryan Reeves than I'd like to admit. I'm also the guy who just screams in everyone's faces to get them fired up when we're out. I'm
Ryan
very
Reeves is
much
the
a,
fun guy. You
let's
want to be the
go.
fun guy.
I'm very much I saw someone tweeted this a couple weeks ago. Men love to just yell "Let's go" and start clapping over the smallest accomplishments, and it's true.
It is
It is
true.
absolutely true. There is nothing more satisfying. It's something silly, like you're flicking through the channels on like a rainy Saturday, and like The Departed is on AMC. Let's go, and just start clapping to yourself. Like that is such a little pleasure, such a tiny little pleasure of life is the ability to just do the "Let's go" to one of your boys and give someone a high five. That is an amazing feeling. I need everybody to be able to enjoy that. I can't, as much as I like to make fun of Ryan Reeves, I can't lie. I'm also the yelling in people's faces, "Let's go" guy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like it's not fun to make like to poke holes at Ryan Reeves' game because he's to my understanding, is a phenomenal person. So
Yeah.
it doesn't serve me any pleasure to be like, yeah, Ryan Reeves is not a great hockey player. I wish he was. I wish. I wish he was. I wish he was really good, and we didn't have to say these things. But like,
Yeah.
watch him play and realize, oh yeah, Ryan Reeves is not a very good hockey player. Like, but off the ice, he's tremendous. He's fun. He's energetic. He gets the team on the ice.
It gets the
Chesty
people
release
going.
us. How about them Rangers? Like, is he a fun person to be around?
He's
On the ice, so
charismatic.
he's not very good, and we have to say both. We have to say both of these things because they're objectively both true. So, yeah, I'm saying Ryan Reeves like as an example, but I guess
Oh no,
he's
I know.
I
I'm just
guess
being a
he's
ball
I
buster.
guess he's blue collar because he's hashtag gritty or whatever.
Okay. The last point I want to make on this upper crust of teams is it's really hard to kind of drop out of that tier. But you get into that institutional strength kind of situation where, like, even teams that are like hopeless, like the Blackhawks had no business trading for Seth Jones and bringing in Marc-Andre
No.
Fleury last summer. But Stan Bowman was looking at his reflection, was like, it's Stan Bowman time, and went out and made those decisions. And we're still the Blackhawks. We still aren't that far away from a Stanley Cup. We got 1-2 guys in here. We'll be fine. And that's when you start getting into trouble, is when you don't believe in the right narrative about your team, when you buy into the hype and you start lying to yourself a little bit. That's when you get into trouble. Like, Chuck Fletcher very much thinks the Flyers are going to be good this year. He thinks so. And I think Chuck Fletcher is doing the Costanza where he knows he's lying to himself, but he believes it. So it's not really lying if you think so. Who was
the blue check mark that after Seth Jones got traded to Chicago was like, this is going to be a playoff team and they're going to be really good and all these things, and then he got he got the guy ratioed into oblivion, and it's all the more enjoyable to go back and read it every now and again, because everybody on the planet except for Sam Bowman and that guy knew that the Blackhawks were going to be bad, and a year later, hey, Blackhawks were bad. It's almost like we all knew it. Figure it out.
That guy works for, I want to say, one of the daily newspapers up in Canada. It might be the Calgary Sun. Michael Trekios.
Yeah. I think that was him.
He is either the most dedicated troll on the planet Earth. Like, he's that committed to the bit, he's always going to tweet the wrong take to fish for engagement, or he is just genuinely like a bad person, because he does the devil's advocate argument for every single thing. Like, even things where there's no need for it. Like, and you're talking about situations like sexual misconduct and like a Vander Kane. And it's like, why is everybody so hard on a Vander Kane type deal? So he's one of the two. He's either doing a bit or he's just genuinely a lunatic. So you got to know when and when not to engage with people on Twitter. I like to call it eating the trash. Usually what I'll do is, if I get somebody in my replies who's calling me an idiot, I'll click on their profile, I'll go over to their likes, and if I find something like outwardly inflammatory, outwardly like homophobic, transphobic, racist, etc., I know not to reply to this person because they're not worth my time. You can't eat the garbage. It's hard to do. It's part of maturing on Twitter, but knowing when to eat the garbage helps.
Well, speaking of that, transitioning over to one of the Rangers news of the day is, according to Larry Brooks, the Rangers are bringing back our friend, our Rangers legend, Jimmy Vesey, supposedly on a 1-year, $750,000 league minimum contract. Listen, like, sure, I would much rather personally have Tyler Mott, and if you found a way to make that happen, I'd much rather have him than Jimmy Vesey. But like, Jimmy Vesey is a guy. That's about all I got. That's about all I got for Jimmy Vesey. Like, he's a guy, I'll tell you that. Like, listen, he scored 16 goals, 17 goals, and 17 goals in the 3 seasons that he had with the Rangers. So I guess the hope is that he does that again. But ever since he left the Rangers, he never scored double-digit goals again. He scored 9 in Buffalo. He scored 8 in New Jersey last year. 15 points, 10 points, 20 points. He's a guy. And like, as a 13th forward, as somebody that can just play when necessary, that's fine. Like, if the Rangers really think that Jimmy Vesey is a fine fourth liner, I guess, sure. But my biggest, I'm gonna have to square up with somebody after in like game number 14 of the regular season, when the warm up lines are tweeted out and Jimmy Vesey's on the first line with Panarin and Zibanejad. Like that, I will fight somebody when that happens, because it's not an if, it's a when, and that is the day that I will throw down, because to me, that's going to be unacceptable. But it's not even like, oh, that won't happen. We saw it happen with John Hunt. Why can't it happen with Jimmy Vesey?
We saw it happen with Jimmy Vesey the first time he was a Ranger.
That's right.
They brought him and Buchnevich in. The first full season Buchnevich was an NHLer, and Buchnevich was playing third line, and Vesey was playing second line. And the reason Jimmy Vesey's never going to hit 19, 20 goals again, he's been a third or fourth liner everywhere else he's gone. When he was in New York, he was playing with good guys. He was playing with Kevin Hayes. He was playing with legitimately good, he was playing with JT Miller, legitimately good NHL players who were able to set him up. And I wrote it in, I want to say 2017, and I think it was then, because that was the last year that War on Ice, the website, worked. And War on Ice, for people who aren't in the analytics community, was kind of the precursor to the RAPM charts you see from Evolving Wild now, which are like the bar graphs that go up and down, where you have where you have the 6 stats and then the power play stats, and the bars are either blue above or red below. War on Ice was like even simpler than that. It was just wins above replacement, and it was first line, second line, third line, or fourth line, and based on what kind of production you had, that's where you got your readout on the chart. And after one season in the NHL, Jimmy Vesey was profiling as a fourth line NHL forward, and I wrote in the fall of 2018, after they lost to Ottawa in the second round, Jimmy Vesey is an NHL forward. He will never be able to drive a line on his own. He will never be able to be an impact player. He can help your team. He could hurt your team. Do not expect that much from him. If he is on your fourth line, you probably have an okay fourth line. I wrote that 5 years ago now, and that's basically what he's been since he left New York. He did the 1 year in Buffalo. He did a stint in Toronto. He got claimed on waivers, went to Vancouver. He spent last year with the Devils. He got to the Devils on a PTO, if people don't forget. He was a training camp invite, and he made the team out of training camp last year. And I tweeted the Rangers should stop signing fourth liners from bad teams, because this is a very simple concept. If you're a good team, you should probably have a pretty good fourth line. When you're a good team, you have lots of good players. When you are not a good team and you're playing on the fourth line of a not good team, that tells me you're probably not an NHLer. That tells me you're a fringe guy. And to Andrew's point, if he's the 13th forward who draws in every couple weeks, if he's the 12th forward instead of Ryan Reeves, if the fourth line is like Barclay Goodrow, Ryan Carpenter, and Jimmy Vesey most nights, that's fine. That's not going to kill the Rangers. But if Jimmy Vesey is playing second line right wing because they don't want to move Lafreniere or Kreider from the left to the right, and they don't trust Kakko to play up there, and they don't want Kravtsov up there, someone's going to have to play first line right wing. And I some of this reeks to high hell of just someone doing a favor for somebody, because the fact that it was Larry to report it and he didn't tweet it, he just kind of threw it in his weekend column, that it reeks of somebody trying to help somebody out, because there's a favor. A two-way contract at league minimum, it's a favor. Jimmy Vesey's probably a PTO guy, to be honest with you. He should have got a training camp invite, make the team out of camp, fine. But to do it this early, where you're still a month out from training camp opening, it stinks a little bit, is all I'll say.
He's a guy. And,
yes,
like we said, if he's somebody that plays bottom 6 minutes every now and again when you need somebody to step in and just play the role, that's fine. You can do worse than Jimmy Vesey. But the second he slides into the second line, or even a first line, help me please if that happens, because I'm fighting somebody. But like then you start to get into serious problems, because you saw it after he left New York the first time, that this man's isn't a top 6 player at all, first of all, and two, you don't sign Jimmy Vesey to have somebody that's a productive scorer. Like he's just not. Like he's a complementary player that sometimes can maybe score a goal, but overall, like, he's there. A lot of times he's just there. And as somebody that plays every now and again, whatever, sure. Anything more than that, that's a problem.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm ordering dinner. My mom texted me to order dinner. That's why I'm not being rude and ignoring you, Andrew. I'm being a good son, so I don't get yelled at by my mother.
Hey man, listen, Jimmy. I was kind of hopeful that you were saying, yeah, I'm texting Jimmy Vesey right now, and he's reassuring me that he's going to score 30 next season. He's going to be very for the boys. He's going to drop 50 points and hoist the cup at the end of the season. I was kind of hoping you'd say that.
Oh, I wish. To be honest, Jimmy Vesey's a nice guy. I met him a couple times. He was pretty nice. I'll be honest. He was a little awkward, but he was a nice guy.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, like Jimmy. Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
set you up for success there. There
yeah.
wasn't really anything to build
I'm
off
like,
of.
I'm trying to piggyback
Bad
off of
radio.
what you're. Yeah. But yeah, with Jimmy Vesey, like, I guess. But if he plays first line minutes, I'm fighting somebody.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to touch on. Wow, we've already done 48 minutes, and that was really easy. We're too good at this. This is problematic. I put together this rundown in like 15 minutes, and it took us longer to like to troubleshoot the audio problems
Yeah.
than to like do any of the prep work for this episode. This is too easy. We need help. Nobody should be this worried about hockey in the middle of August. I should be
Counterpoint:
worried.
we gotta help other people because our content ideas are so good that we can do 49 minutes now of screaming and yelling on August 7th when nothing is happening in the NHL. If we can do that at NHL, at ESPN, at whoever, you doing? Like, why are we here doing this for free then? If we're giving you content like that, if we can fill this kind of time yelling in the middle of the off season, then I feel like, I don't know, man. I feel like we can like Frank Sinatra said, right? If you can make it here, then you can make it anywhere.
I was talking about this the other day with somebody actually because one of my friends, he's a very casual hockey fan, and he was like, "Yeah, I was watching NHL Network the other day. It wasn't very good." And I was like, "I mean, they just don't have enough personalities. There's just there's something the other sports like NFL Network any day of the given year, and NBA TV is pretty good. So it just speaks to the problems we have in hockey, and one of the many things. Want to do parting shots and go home?
All right, let's do it. Who did it? Do you remember who did it last time? Was it
I
you?
think
Was it
I
me?
went first. I'm
All
pretty
right,
sure I went first. So your turn, sir.
all right. So my parting shot here is why. My question is like, why is hockey so scared of stepping outside of its comfort zone? There's so many instances where the NHL as a whole and people in hockey are always just like, this is the way we've done things, this is the way we know how to do things, and this is the way that we'll do things until the end of time. Such as with Lou Lamoriello, right? Like Lou, for his entire tenure as a hockey executive, has always been like, this is, you're gonna come in clean shaven, weird, very weird, such a strange rule. You're gonna come in clean shaven. I'm not gonna tell anybody anything, and for whatever reason, the check marks are like, yeah. That makes a whole lot of sense. Woo! That's really weird to me. Just hockey as a whole being very comfortable in what they know and not being okay with being like, hey, what's over there? Let me go explore that. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does though. But you don't know unless you at least try, like, exploring a different market or trying something that isn't very bare minimum, like very very NHL esque or hockey esque, like just doing something that we as hockey fans wouldn't expect the NHL to explore. Like they're doing, the idea is that, like, if you open TikTok, like, I'm not on TikTok. I don't mess with TikTok at all. Like, I know the NHL has a TikTok, but what are they doing on TikTok? Like, what kind of clips are they posting on there? Like, that's on the social media team. Like, that's on the 200 hockey men at the same time. Like, they have to be within that, the at NHL symbol. Like, you have to be within this box, and you can't really step out of it. Even though we love to see fun, we when seeing personalities, come about from players, it's amazing. When last season with the Ducks, I forget who, I think it was Trevor Zegras. He did the Michigan, and
Yeah.
everybody loved it. But John Tortorella was like, "No, oh, this stinks, and this is horrible," and all these, like, that's a prime example. You have to be able to just be flexible, man. You have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to do, like, you can't just be a curmudgeon for your whole life. You have to be able to move around and have some wiggle room, and find new ways to grow the sport. And what Zegers is doing, he's being a personality, he's being fun. That's
He's
a
going to be
great
on
way
the
to.
cover of NHL.
That's a great way to do it. What John Tortorella's doing and what Lou's doing and what I guess Chuck Fletcher's just ruining a franchise. But like what a lot of these people are doing, it's not conducive to the overall growth of the NHL, and you have to step outside your comfort zone to achieve these things sometimes.
Curmudgeon's a very good word. I got to use that one more often.
SAT
That
word.
was
I'm studying for it.
Yeah.
I took it. God, 8. I don't even know. Maybe like I've took it a long time ago, but I'm studying for it again. Why not?
Oh man, one of my friends was in a fantasy football league where the person who finished dead last had to go and take the SAT as a 24-year-old. Great punishment,
Oh
amazing
man,
punishment. And the thing is, you got to stay the entire time.
yeah.
You got to go and walk into a high school as a 24-year-old and sit there for 4.5 hours taking a friggin' test.
Who pays for it though? Because the SAT is
They
not
paid
free.
for it. That was the punishment. He had to pay for it.
Wow. It's
There's
not
that
cheap.
one. No, it's not. It's like $50-$60
Yeah.
to take a test,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. There's a few funny ones. My friend was in one last year where you have to spend 24 hours at a Waffle House for finishing dead last, and for every waffle you eat, 1 hour comes off the time. He ate, I think he ate 9 waffles, so he got out of there after 15 hours. So you can get very creative with these types of things. Okay.
Yeah.
Parting shot. Very simple. Somebody asked me this in the replies to one of the show's tweets a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't sure how I wanted to talk about this, because this is one of the things I find very interesting about hockey in general is everybody watches hockey in a different way. Two people can be watching the exact same play, but there's a good chance they're not looking at the same thing. Specifically, I watch hockey in a few different ways. Number one, if I'm just watching to watch the game, I'm typically looking away from where the puck is because that's where the play is developing. Where the puck isn't is where it's going to eventually get to. So that's usually what I'm following during the course of a game, especially if I'm at the game and I have a better spacing awareness, because it just, the way hockey's shot on TV, sometimes it can be a little wonky trying to get the depth perception across the zone of left to right. So when I'm at the game, it's a lot easier to follow away from the play, especially if you're behind one of the goals and the play is coming towards you. You get such a better understanding of the spacing of the ice from that particular vantage point, and it's why I like sitting behind one of the nets when I'm at a game. But for work purposes, and I can talk about this in relation to the Braden Schneider piece I'm going to have that's going to be out tomorrow on Gotham Sports Network. I went back on Thursday and I watched 3 or 4 Ranger playoff games, and I only was looking at Braden Schneider the entire time. What he was doing away from the puck, what he was doing when he had the puck. And when I'm doing that, that is typically when I'm going to log micro things. I'm going to log puck touches, clearances, completed passes, incompleted passes, turnovers, the little things that go into making up a hockey game that if you're not a trained eye, you're going to not know what I'm talking about, just to be honest with you. I know when I talk about micro stats and possession stats, those are a little bit more convoluted, but when I break it down into individual things like how many times during the course of a game does Braden Schneider touch the puck? Does he have more positive touches of the puck or negative touches of the puck? That is typically how I go about doing player evaluation when I'm doing it for a detailed reason. When I'm really crunching tape and trying to evaluate what I think of somebody, those are the little things I'm looking for. But those are really the 2 ways I go about watching. And then the third way is I drink 15 Bud Lights and I yell. Those are the 3 ways I watch hockey. Those are the 3 ways I go about watching hockey. The first 2 are the ones that, that's how you watch hockey. And then the third one is what I do when I'm having fun.
The first 2, I'm sure you've seen the clip of Jason Spezza taking all these notes in the book. Like that's how some people that's how some people watch the game. And then there are others that are just like, yeah, the eye test. Yep, that's all I got. That's all I need to see. And then there's that
The
one.
thing is, I need somebody when they say I'm worried about the eye test. What does the eye test mean? Does it mean they're in the right place at the right time? Does it mean they're noticeable? Because being noticeable doesn't always mean you're playing
Good.
well.
Yeah.
You can be like the classic example, Jacob Trouba is billed as a 2-way defenseman. When you look at all of his micro stats, meaning possession stats, so like zone clearances, zone exits, zone denials, all of the things that go into being good at defense, like shot suppression, He's not very good at any of them. He's good at throwing hits and forcing turnovers. That is the one plush trait defensively he has. But he's billed as a good defensive defenseman because he's noticeable, because he's big, because he's a strong skater. He's able to get into the play. That's not necessarily what I would consider being good defensively. To me, the best defensive defenseman in hockey is Jacob Slavin because he's always in the right place at the right time, and it looks easy for him. That is the single biggest thing for me when I talk about, do I think a player is good or not? Do they make it look easy, or does every time they touch the puck, it look like a baby deer trying to walk? Those are the two things. That's really how I evaluate it. And perfect example I can use to explain this, and then we can get out of here. I went to the Rangers home opener last year against Dallas. One of my friends who's a casual hockey fan. He watches hockey occasionally. If he's with me, we'll watch hockey. And he goes, I was thinking about what you were saying the other day about how Connor McDavid makes it look so easy. And then I watch Ryan Reeves skate, and I can tell it's not easy for him. He is trying his hardest to get into the play right now. And that's the perfect way to explain it. If somebody looks like they're fighting it, that typically means they're not as good. Connor McDavid makes hockey look like the simplest game imaginable because he is the best player on the planet Earth. That is how I go about watching hockey. We hope you guys enjoyed today's show. I know we kind of got a little all over the place today. You can follow the show on all of the major social media platforms. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. Our YouTube is Liberty Blue Pod. It's down here on the bottom. If you're watching the video down there, it's very nice. We put together this overlay. Full episodes on YouTube. I want to do like video essays on YouTube explaining things, and we're gonna have to figure out something. I might have to break out the dry erase board and like puppets or something because we can't use video.
Yeah,
so we'll figure something out.
The Rangers smell it. They smell blood in the water. Like if you even try to put in a clip of the Rangers playing and kind of breaking it down, they will sue you. They will attack you. They'll do everything in their power to take that video down, even though all we're trying to do is break things down and educate people. For whatever reason, and this happens, I mean, this is by default NHL content, so it is copyrighted. But we want to use it under fair use of like, hey, here's a play, here's why this happened and why this led to another and how this goal was scored or whatever. We want to use it under fair use, but that's a tricky thing especially with YouTube, because like the Rangers can strike down a video and you have to prove that it's fair use. They don't have to prove anything. All they have to do is send a strike and the video's down. So it's kind of a complicated subject. But one thing before I let you go, Nick, you put down the phone. So that means I would imagine that you have dinner ordered.
Yes.
I think it is a mandatory thing on the topic tree before you go to tell the people what you ordered.
Oh, I ordered a bowl from the place it's near me. It's basically Chipotle. There's a chain of them. Bubba burritos. I got what did I get? I got grilled chicken, black beans, white rice. No, not white rice, brown beans. Jamaican jerk sauce. What else? Pico de gallo, corn salsa, guac. I load up my bowl. I love me some. I'm such a slave to all of them. Qdoba's good. Qdoba's so good. Moe's is good. Chipotle is good. Bubba is very good. But yeah, bowl. You can follow Andrew on Twitter. Chelney Andrew, Chelney. It's right there if you're watching the video. That's how you spell his last name. Follow me. I'm Nick, Zararis on Twitter. Be sure to check out the Braden Schneider piece. That'll be up on Gotham Sports Network tomorrow. We'll plug it. I'll be in Montreal this week. I'll still be tweeting like a lunatic because, let's be honest, I'm addicted to the dopamine machine like everybody else. I'll be back for next week. I will be back, hopefully, with the Uri Slafkovsky Canadians jersey in hand, and we'll see you guys then.
They won't let you leave without it. They hand them out as you leave Montreal. They're like, don't forget, we have Uri Slafkovsky now, so you won't be able to leave without him.
And I will take you up. I will take a picture this week, Andrew. I promise. I will post a picture on Instagram.
It better be, because your Instagram, like you post maybe once like every 7 years, and once you do, it is a momentous occasion that everybody stops in their tracks and has to like. We have to react to. We have to do all these things because it is. This happens, just like a blood moon or a presidential election. It happens like once every 4 years. Like when it happens, everybody knows about it. So yeah, if you could do that like more often, because you go to cool places, man. You went to Long Island, like you go to Montreal. You're going to cool places. You might as well.
I don't know if Long Island's a cool place. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, okay, right, but like you had the Santa, you had Christmas in July.
Yeah.
Like, man, just do the thing, man. You have an Instagram account, just post things on there every now and again, would you?
Okay, I will troop up. I will be that guy. I will be going on the tour of the Bell Center, and I will wear my Chris Kreider Rangers jersey, and I will have a delightful time smiling, walking around.
Hell yeah.
Go back to the scene of the crime.
I mean, hey, if Emelin did
Alexei Emelin killed someone. Alexei Emelin killed somebody last week in the KHL. He went knee on knee with somebody. That was a brutal hit.
If only he didn't trip Kreider, then maybe none of this would have happened.
All right, let's get out of here before the last 6 people who are still listening close out. Okay, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. I don't even know how to say. Au revoir. There we go. I was gonna say I don't know how to say goodbye in French, and I had to think about it. All right.
Yep.
We'll see you guys next week.
Later.